So today's video is going to be a little bit different. First of all, yes, we are bringing the voice back. And secondly, we are doing an actual tier list, not the ones that I used to do where it's just a top 5, like with the variants out of an entire class. We're doing the whole thing, start to finish, top to bottom. This tier list will be based around the base upgrades that our player has access to in BFN. In other words, the 5 general upgrades, and the 5 upgrades specific to what kind of class they are, whether it be attack, defense, or support. Now before we begin, for clarification, Swarm does not get any unique upgrades, they just share them with the other 3 classes. Mostly because PopCap could not be fucked to give them actual unique class upgrades. With that clarification of bullshit out the way, let's get to the tier list. Here it is, my tier list. You can throw the hate mail in now. I will start from the bottom and work my way to the top. Each upgrade will have a description showcasing what it does, and will have any additional notes if needed. So let us begin. With the exception of maybe level up, I would not recommend these upgrades at all. Here's why. Rough Patch is honestly just awful. I would not recommend using this ever. Outside of maybe fulfilling the last point slot if nothing else is available, but literally don't bother using this upgrade. Only comes to effect really if you're shit at the game, which I understand that it's trying to be helpful, but you could just easily equip an upgrade that makes you better in literally every situation. As just having a little bit more overhealth than what you're normally allowed for only 30 seconds at a time is not that impactful. Leveling up is down here because, well, it's not really combat focused, it's more grind focused, just a 10% XP increase, nothing too special really. Now to explain the first Fearless on this list, as well as be abundant with questions such as,
Mr. Lieutenant, you fucking cock sniffer, why are there 2 separate instances of Fearless?
well, that's why they're color-coded. It's actually meant to be the zombie version of Fearless, and here is why it's down here. It sucks. What Fearless is supposed to do is grant you health per second when near at least 2 enemies. Sounds simple. The plant version works fine, hence why it's up here, but the zombie version, not quite. The zombie version only grants you 0.2 health every second. That is literally nothing. I don't know how they broke it, I don't know what they did, they just fucked it up. And now it sucks. So if you are currently using it thinking it's as good as the plant version, no. These upgrades are a lot more useful than the bottom tier, but they're kind of specific in how you can use them, so they're rather situational. Combo being down here mostly relies on who are you playing as. For example, if you're a pea shooter, you have access to lots of AoE and you have access to Bean Bomb. You can kill multiple people simultaneously very easily with pea shooter, so it's great for him. The problem is, not a lot of assault classes have access to good AoE. Your best bets are either pea shooter, imp, or SB. And even then, outside of ops, or a lobby infested with bots, you're not gonna often run into multiple people at the same time that you can kill simultaneously. I guess what does give it a bit more weight is that it does shave off 10 seconds off of all cooldowns whenever you do pull it off. So it is very nice if it can be done. Fallback is another one where, I mean, it's fine, but there's not really a lot of cases where its effect is that useful. For starters, you have to be at or under 20% health. That is quite the daring threshold. Even Citron would have to be below 40 health, which for a character of his size is not a lot to work with. What also makes the upgrade counterintuitive to use is if you're on a team with a player who's very good at being a healer and keeping everyone happy and healthy, which makes the upgrade redundant if you're never going to get below that 20% threshold, so you might as well just take it off. Low Life is basically the same thing as Vampiric, but with 2 changes. It can be triggered on any kind of kill, being either a player, a pod, a bot, or whatever, and the other change is that you have to be below 20% health in order to gain that benefit, which makes it suffer the exact same problem as Fallback, pretty much being redundant on teams with healers, and even then, only receiving 12 to 15 health upon a kill, whilst being at low health. Honestly, it's just not worth it. Combat Aura, I know, is going to cause a few questions, given its potency. I mean, a 25% damage increase for 15 seconds, not only for yourself, but in a radius around you, sounds quite good. But before you can have that nice combat buff, you need to get a 5 kill streak, which depending on who you're playing as can either be somewhat trivial, or very difficult. Sunflower and Wizard? Yeah, they could get it very easily. TV Head and Wallflower? A little bit of a struggle, but they can still get it. Rose? You'll have more luck trying to convince people that the Earth is flat than trying to get Combat Aura to work with Rose. Luckily, shares do count towards the streaks, so if you have someone else helping you out, then Rose might be a bit easier. Outside of that, I mean, it's okay. The visual effects can give away your position, as well as make it obvious to the enemy team who they should be shooting. But in the right circumstances, it can get the job done. This is where a lot of the upgrades typically end up. They're great in quite a plethora of situations, but they're not the best. Vampiric is essentially low life that can activate whenever you want to and can provide overhealth with two main drawbacks, both of which are why it's only in mid-tier. The first thing is its free point price tag. Now, whilst Vampiric can be activated a lot more frequently than low life, and it can provide overhealth, a free point price tag is quite the high asking price. The other limiting factor is that it must be on hero kills only. No pots, no bots, no browncoats, no weeds. Only AI heroes or players will grant you the extra health. Which, whilst players are definitely plentiful in multiplayer, it does mean that you can't just farm off AI or pots or bots in order to get your free health. But honestly, with how much it can do in terms of overhealth and accessibility, and the fact that it can stack with SP's own self-healing, Vampiric can be useful in quite a few builds actually. Rollout is kind of similar to Fallback, except far less situational and far more useful. You essentially get a better speed boost than Fallback for 7.5 seconds, literally whenever you spawn in or are revived. So you can either use it as like a sunflower to instantly get back into the fray, get back to healing your team, or if you're someone that just got Mercy Main, you can get out of that. Then it only has a price tag of 2 points, so it can be used in a lot of builds. It's not the most useful thing in the world, but it does have its moments where it does shine. Adrenaline Rush more depends on your style of play, but it is particularly useful if you enjoy being aggressive with defense characters, and in the hands of a skilled player, can allow you to partially snowball the enemy team with you getting a speed boost on each and every kill. Only things really holding it back are that the speed boost lasts only 4 seconds at a time, and that has a free point price tag, so it can't really fit into a lot of builds. Refresh Revive being this low may cause some people to question why it's down here, but allow me to elaborate. While yes, it can do the exact same cooldown reduction as Combo, but for only 1 point, and for doing something infinitely easier, it does put you in a lot more risky situation. Especially if you're in the thick of the fight and someone goes down, since enemies are still shooting you, shit's happening everywhere, and honestly, you cannot make heads and tails of the situation. But with it only costing 1 point, it can be very flexible and can be used in a lot of builds, especially with it being a generalist upgrade, so everyone has access to it. Ready Up being this high might confuse some of you, but it's here for a very good reason. It doesn't sound much, but being able to use your weapons or abilities much faster after coming out sprinting makes quite the difference, especially if you are either Chomper or SB. Trust me when I say this, Ready Up will make them feel a lot more fluid and easier to use. Hard Target essentially grants you the same speed boost as Adrenaline Rush, but just for being hit. You can use it to either get in your enemy's face and just sprint all around them, or you can use it to just run away like a little bit. It does get held back quite a bit by its 3 point price tag, the speed boost only lasting 2 seconds at a time, and that it has a 6 second cooldown between activations of the speed boost, so you cannot just exploit it willy-nilly. Now Fearless, or at least the version that actually fucking works, is actually kinda good. You do regenerate quite a bit of health when you get the minimum of 2 enemies nearby to activate, and if at least 4 are nearby, which is the maximum, then you get quite a bit. However, to reap such benefits, you do have to also place yourself in those 1v3, 4 or 5 situations. You have to essentially outnumber yourself in order to reap its benefits. Hence why at most it goes in the mid-tier. These upgrades honestly work quite well in a lot of builds, and some of them actually outclass quite a few of what you can unlock for each of the characters. Super Savior just makes it so much easier to defend yourself when reviving someone. You can now bunny hop, you can now use abilities to defend yourself, and in Rose's case, you can start a revive and then go into Enigma, which makes it so that outside of someone with knockback, who the fuck is going to stop you? A lot of people tend to push Speedy to the side because they don't believe it's that good. Allow me to convince you otherwise. Pretty much a 13% speed increase that is applied to everything except sprinting. A lot of abilities and certain interactions become easier when Speedy is added into the equation. An SB with Speedy using a shield is almost as fast as normal sprinting speed. Abilities such as Burrow and Out of Fight, who use your base speed as a modifier for their speed buffs, become even faster. That, and it makes people who are running away much easier to chase since you will be moving faster while still having access to your primary weapon and abilities. Having Revive reward on either Sunflower or Scientist makes them nearly unstoppable, especially if they can keep pulling it off again and again. The 10% armor buff you get whilst performing a revive might not be much, but it does make pulling it off easier, especially since at the end you get 75 health instantly worth healing. That and said healing can provide overhealth if you are high enough, so you can very easily just undo a lot of damage that was recently thrown at you. Health regeneration is one of the strongest upgrades in the game. Not as strong as its counterpart, mind you, but strong in its own right. Being able to flat out double your health regeneration speed from 20 to 40 is very powerful. Depending on what class you are, you can essentially erase all of the hard work a player has done in a matter of seconds. And if you're either Oak or Space Station, then that faster regeneration speed is going to be really beneficial due to how much health you have. Best defense, whilst it is mildly situation given that it requires a critical vanquish, allows you to effectively stay in the fight for much longer periods of time due to how much damage you'll be able to absorb. Especially if you have maximum stacks with a beefier class like an All-Star or Citron. If at full health, or even better, fully overhealed, an enemy will have to do a lot more damage than what your health bar actually says. And don't get me started on how someone with max best defense with a pocket healer is near enough impossible to take down without a burst damage ability. Both of these upgrades are in top tier for a very good reason. A lot of builds usually have at least one of these upgrades in them. Health regen delay is very good in BFN, especially if you are either an All-Star or a Citron who can just put up a shield, as cutting down the regeneration delay from 8 seconds down to just 4 means that enemy will not be able to stop you 9 times out of 10 before you start regaining health. If you decide to be a sweaty gamer and put it with the health regeneration upgrade, then you can effectively recover all of your health in about 7 seconds flat. No, I'm being serious. Like, look at this shit. And the other upgrade we have in the top tier is Critical Blow. Critical Blow honestly can work in so many builds that it's literally almost a necessity. Being able to take 5.5 seconds off of all of your cooldowns for getting literally any form of critical vanquish is actually amazing. Like, as a soldier, you could get a vanquish with a ZBG, which counts as critical vanquish, and then get 2 more critical kills with your primary, and then you'll have your ZBG back and ready to go. Essentially, everyone, with the sole exception of Nightcap, can very easily take advantage of Critical Blow. Especially zombies, since a majority of the plant roster have rather large critical hitboxes. Characters such as Chomper, Nightcap, Snapdragon, Oak, Sunflower, Wildflower, all of them have very large critical hitboxes, so it will be easy to get the use out of Critical Blow. Chomper and SB's primary weapons can tag in as well, since the game treats them as critical hits. Overall, there is almost never a build that won't benefit from Critical Blow. Hell, some builds are even centered entirely around Critical Blow, pretty much making sure that you get your abilities back as soon as possible. Since honestly, it's just so flexible and can fit into literally anything, like why would you not use it? And thus concludes my tier list on the base upgrades in BFN. If you want to make your own, I have made the template. There will be a link in the pinned comment, so feel free to go make your own tier list and share with others. Who knows, maybe the PvZ Mafia will be at your door the very next day. But as always, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe for more shit like this. Have fun!